Look at there. You just hit record and it record. It's on the camera. It's on the... Man.
I know. I actually started recording today. Daniel immediately called me up. For everybody that doesn't know, let's get this part out of the way real quick. We got Daniel Arms Family Homestead. We don't have a lot of time to mess around with intros and all the crazy stuff because we got a lot to talk about. Will we give you intro music?
That wasn't even an intro.
What do you? I mean, I'm sorry. Do you want?
I thought this was like a game show or something.
It sounds like. Well, that's not my normal music. I don't know what's going on with the board. It's got something weird on it. That's like the preset one. I had some better ones in there, but they're just not there. So, ladies and gentlemen, Daniel Arms from Arms Family Homestead. I'm sure most of you know who Daniel is, and he's joining us on the podcast today. Have you ever done a podcast before?
DJ and I sat on the couch and recorded our podcast for like 12 weeks.
But I'm talking about like you sat down with somebody else and they ask you questions.
Nope.
See, we're getting down to the nitty gritty. I told DJ, we just had breakfast with DJ and the kids. Sarah just left, and I told him, I'm gonna try to make Daniel cry in today's episode. It's the #1 goal. If you need to raise that up, you can. I know you're like super tall. If you just twist that little thing, you got a whole stem there. You can come up. See, look, we got you covered.
We do things real fancy on my YouTube channel. We're like, okay,
I know.
Hang on, we got our phone out. You record.
Yeah, see. It amazes me. So it's funny though that you bring that up because we've said so many times on this channel. I've heard Daniel say it on his channel. There's so many people out there. It's like, I want to start a YouTube channel, but I'm saving up money for equipment.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, and I've said this is my famous line. I'm like, if you are not filming stuff for a YouTube channel, it's not equipment you're lacking. It's motivation. Period. I mean, because you've got everything you need right in your pocket. I mean, bar none. It's there. So.
Yeah, I mean, some of us have bigger pockets and carry around more equipment, apparently. But
yeah,
I've pretty much filmed.
It was funny
hundreds of videos
when we
on
went
the
out
phone.
to. Of course, you guys know we spent a lot of time with Daniel and DJ this year. We've been very, very blessed to become friends with them, and we did the conference out in Broken Arrow, Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I brought the big setup because there's just sometimes where you just want to look fancy. And I mean, I knew there was going to be other content creators there, so. I mean, I went pretty hard for that conference. I came out. I had one of the big camera setups. I had an on-field monitor. There were more people that came up. Was like, they were doing full walk-arounds of the setup. They're like, man, you film everything on this? I was like, never. No. Not. There's never a time where I'm out doing a video and I've got any of this stuff with me.
I could see you on the Mako.
Holding that big. Hang on a minute, guys, because the whole rig's like this big, and I'm like trying to hold that and a fish. And
wasn't it Brant that dumped a tripod into the water with a DSLR on it one time?
That was my fault. I was with Brant. I was hooked into a fish, a big bull red, and it was sitting on we were on his dad's little tracker, which does not have a lot of deck space. It's like a 15-foot boat, I think, and it's much, much more narrow. And of course, I'm a bigger dude anyways, and it was behind me. And when I set the hook, I took a step back, and when I did, right into that camera, and in the drink she went. And in case you're not familiar, saltwater and DSLR cameras do not mix well together. No. In case anybody's wondering. So
no, even my little point and shoot Sony or RX100, it's more than a little point and shoot, but it's not much. It's not a DSLR.
Yeah,
but I have brought it to the Pensacola area a few times.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's one of those that you turn it on and the lens comes out and it opens up.
Yeah. It's like a point and shoot. It's like if you're familiar with Canon Sure Shot, it's very similar.
Salt does not its friend.
Well, you ended up breaking that though, right? In the shop. Have you ever replaced that?
Oh, no. The screen's still messed up, but it works.
My man over here
when you turn it on, you got to like open the little shutter.
My man over here with 750,000 subs, and he won't replace a camera because all he uses is his phone now. But then you did tell me that the DJI, we just invested in the Rode mics. When I was at your place a month or two ago, you were saying something about those DJI mics are going to be like Bluetooth compatible, so they'll go to your phone.
So everybody that I've become friends with on YouTube is now I see it clipped on their shirt.
Yeah.
All right, folks, I can't stand the microphone just clipped on. You got the big windscreen. Like I've seen some people just clip it on their hat. That bugs me. But everybody that I've talked to has the new DJI microphones. Absolutely love them because they will work with your phone. And I don't know that it Bluetooths your phone. I think it actually plugs in and you've got them.
But even still, that would be fine because we are coming into an era where no matter what you're doing, whether you're Facebook, whether you're YouTube, TikTok, whatever you're doing, most content creation is happening on phones now. You're seeing less and less. I remember when I went out to VidCon 4 years ago, whatever it was. And golly, I guess it's been 5 years ago now because Chase was 13. Everybody had the big setups with the Rode mics on top and the dead cat and all the stuff. And now we go to...
Why?
Yeah, and now we go to these events.
It was because of one person. Everybody had to have the Joby flexible tripod with the same microphone, the same camera setup, because Casey Neistat was doing it on a electric, whatever.
Yeah, like my one wheel. Yeah, I should have brought the one wheel out to Oklahoma. If I could have rode if I could have not died getting the one wheel to the creek, that would be absolutely amazing.
Going across the slab?
I don't know if I could go. They're not waterproof. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't do that. Then.
Are you not comfortable over there with the? Is everything good? You need to adjust.
Well, it was sliding back.
Oh, okay.
Still trying to get used to this fancy stuff.
It's not. It's really not that fancy. So I guess we're still in the middle of the intro. And it was funny because when we went to breakfast, DJ and Sarah was like, "I don't see how you guys are going to sit there and talk for an hour." And we were like, "We don't know how we're going to keep it to an hour. I don't know what you guys are talking about." So I always start these off by saying we don't really. Obviously, we talk about your YouTube channel some, but a lot of what we talk about here is life off of camera and what we do when we're not in front of the camera, which I know for you is a lot.
So is this like Arms Family Exposed?
It is exactly what it is.
I keep my shirt on though, right?
Not if you don't want to. I mean, I've done way more for less. So it's not. If you want to take your shirt off, I'm not sure what would prompt you to do that. But
I thought it was the exposed part. I hadn't finished any of your podcasts. I only watched the beginning. I didn't make it to the end of them.
They're long. I know they are long. For those of you that are staying out and like staying till the end, God bless your hearts. We greatly appreciate you. But the only reason Daniel Arms wants to take his shirt off right now is because he's been doing CrossFit. Hey, that's, it's one of those things. It's like, it's the second you come out of the CrossFit gym for the first time, you're like, yeah, I guess I better take my shirt off.
That's right. You have to. It's mandatory.
So it keeps you.
Hey, listen, I've never been a fan of organized workout classes. Like,
right.
If I'm going to go to the gym, I go by myself. I just do my thing, go on. CrossFit's been fun. But in all fairness, when DJ and I signed up, when I went in for our first, like, okay, this is scary. I don't know about this. These people do weird clean,
throwing stuff everywhere.
Yeah, but they were like, okay, we have a 5:15 a.m. class, we have a 6:30 a.m. class, we have an 8:30 and a 9:30, and I was like, well, we can't 5:15. My wife won't get out of bed. There's no way. 6:30 is not going to work because we got to have the kids in school and all that. We wouldn't be able to get home. And she was like, 8:30, huh? I said, probably, yeah, we can drop the kids off when we get here. And this lady, I knew her. She was from our hometown, and she played on the basketball team that won state championship. And she's a beast of an athlete, little girl, very strong. Anyways, she was like, 8:30 class, huh? I said, well, what?
You immediately got that grin. You're like, uh-oh.
She was like, that's the stay-at-home mom class. I was like, perfect. That means there's not going to be a bunch of big He-Man in there throwing around a bunch of weight, and I can come in and like fit in.
How bad was it for you the first time you went in there though, and they were like making you look straight up like a joke?
Oh, dude.
I know it happened.
There's some ladies that are animals in CrossFit.
Dude, I know. And DJ was opposed though at first, right? Because a lot of times you guys see CrossFitters and they're super, especially the girls, like they're super stocky. They're cut up very much. And I think DJ was worried about that.
So she was like, I don't want to look like a bulldog. I don't want to have this big old neck. That's what she was worried about.
Yeah.
But it's fun. It's neat because they can scale it to everybody's level. Sure. And I don't know. It's important to us to stay active and stay fit. And I really enjoy cookies and cakes and, like breakfast this morning the kids ordered.
It looked amazing.
It was cinnamon roll French toast.
Yeah, and I mean but we just but Daniel and I had a conversation, and y'all leave a comment down below because I think we're not alone in this majority. That stuff looks amazing for breakfast, but you get it and it is great, but then you take like 3 or 4 bites of it and you're like, it's just so much sweet. That early in the morning. And even for me, and I mean y'all can tell I like some sweets. Let's not kid anybody, but even still, like I'm not a big sweets for breakfast guy.
Yeah, no, I mean Emily, our daughter's 14, and she loves to bake. And she wants brownies and cinnamon rolls and stuff all the time. So, like, when we arrived here, went to the grocery store, we landed late, right at dinner time. So we stopped at the grocery store, and my wife and I grabbed some coffee, and what DJ wanted some creamer, and Emily goes and gets 2 cans of cinnamon rolls.
Yes,
that's like her first thought. It was we gotta have cinnamon rolls.
I could have given you all some eggs for the property for the house over there while you guys are in town. So for just real quick recap, if you guys are like, I don't know who watching this podcast doesn't know who this guy is at this point. They do run a farm out in hang on, this mic cord's going bad. I know I just got to get it replaced. I just haven't done it yet. See, it's not that fancy. It's still like, it's just piecemealed. But they do run a farm out in Oklahoma, 110 acres on one area, 80 acres on another area you guys have out there. And they literally run an online farm. Now I know that sounds like a very crazy thing to say, but it is 100% become an online farm for you guys.
I call it an online petting zoo.
It
honestly.
is. Yeah, very much so.
I don't want everybody coming to the house for a petting zoo.
Even though they do sometimes.
That's basically what it's evolved into. People get very attached to animals in person for sure. I mean, everybody gets very attached to animals, but I've learned that they get just as attached over time on video.
Oh, no, I mean, and I see it all the time just watching your comment section. I watched Daniel for a long time before we became contacts and then worked into, a friendship. And it's crazy to see like the emotional attachment that people get to animals that they never met. They're literally their characters on your channel.
They are, but what's tough is we are a farm. We've a homestead that produces livestock for consumption.
For processing, yeah.
And people have a hard time seeing, okay, this animal is a pet and this animal is for food. So you raise a steer for a year and a half, and then some people are like, okay, it's going to be processed. Others are like, let's start a GoFundMe to save the steer.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I named it Big Mac for a reason.
Yeah, we're going to eat him. Like the next one's going to be porterhouse. This ain't going nowhere.
Right.
Like we're doing this. So yeah. And I think that's a big misconception because you do use that online audience to control your farm. But like you said, some people just, especially if you never grew up on a farm, I mean, there's still, and this is sad to say, but there are people that thinks all their food really does come from, Publix meat section. That food came from a farm at some point. And honestly, the thing that people don't understand is and you I see this all the time and it drives me crazy. People are like, well, what do you mean you gave it a great life while it's alive, but then you murdered it? Well, yeah, but you don't see what these other cattle are going through for the 18 months of their life. They're literally miserable for the 18 months they're on this earth, and then they're slaughtered and they're sent to Walmart and they're packaged. Where what you guys are doing is like you feed them well, you let them live their best life for the 12 to 18 months that you have them, and then you do with what they're made for, and that's to process them into meat. So a lot of people don't get that size. If you think what Daniel's doing is wrong, go look up a normal
factory
meat processing factory farm, and you guys will see just how different that is. So
I mean, I would say the vast majority of the beef consumed in America comes from feedlots. Now, they're going to start off from, a lot of them may have originated, they may have been born on a small farm with 50 cows, but once they're weaned, they're sold at an auction, and then they go to factory farms. They're put in feedlots, and they are fed out for, that 12 to 18 month period, because they're weaned when they're, 4 to 6 months old or younger.
Yeah.
And then they go to a feedlot, and if it rains, they stand in mud.
If you've never seen a feedlot, guys, I don't want to say it's inhumane. It's just the way it works. Yeah. It's not. I mean, they're taking care of their cow. They're feeding them. I'm not saying that, but it's like you have a room this size and you might have 200 cows in it. I mean, and I know that's a bit of an exaggeration, but it's not. Like. Yeah, they are cramped up. I honestly don't even know if they have room to lay down in those feedlots. It almost seems.
I don't know if you want to.
Right, because it's just they're literally standing in mud. It's insane. So, but they do that as well. So. Obviously, we always talk about this. So Daniel posts 3 times a week. Usually his videos are somewhere between 20, 30 minutes. So he's in that same ballpark as most of the people you guys have seen on this channel ours. We give you about an hour a week of our life. That's what we're giving you. What do you do when that camera turns off and it's time to decompress and nothing to do with content creation? What do you like to do that puts you in a different place and you kind of relax while you're doing that?
If I'm in the house, it's YouTube. Yeah. I talk to a lot of creators and they say, I don't have time to watch YouTube. I don't have time to watch YouTube. I make YouTube videos, but I don't have time to watch it. But that's what I watch. I don't watch sports. Yeah. I'm not I literally couldn't tell you who's winning in the NFL or MLB.
If it's even going on right now. Yeah.
Well, I can tell you if it's going on, yeah. but that's just not what I do. So my friends struggle with that. They're like, you want to watch the game? I'm like, no, but I'll watch this guy catching fish,
Yeah.
But so I when I'm in the house, I watch YouTube, and then I enjoy it. But hunting, fishing, I mean, anything with my kids. Really, our kids are super involved in sports and stuff. But to get outside, and I mean, we do a lot of creek fishing or creek videos in the summertime. But that's just because that's what we do. Yeah. That's just what I enjoy, and I grew up on the property that I live on, and especially in the springtime. when the fish are really in the creek. That's just, I don't know. I'm drawn to that, and that kind of stuff.
Well, and I had John Dalton on, I don't know, 2 or 3 episodes ago, and we talked about your place. Of all the places, I mean, obviously we get to travel a lot of places. We have a very cool job, and we've been so blessed to get to work with the people we work with. But I have to say, like, the creek right there at the dam it's one of my favorite places I've ever filmed a video and I've ever visited. There's something magical about that little place.
The hardest part about filming a video right there is that waterfall is so loud.
It is loud.
So you're like, hey, we got a fish.
Yeah, it is loud, but it gives a backdrop, because a lot of what we do, whether we're fishing or whether you're out feeding the animals, the whole point of content creation for us is to make you guys feel like you're there with us. I mean, that's the point. And when Daniel's out feeding animals or whatever, so I think that just adds to it. I mean, I think when that waterfall is loud in a video, when I did the micro rod fishing out there with Sarah, where she jumped in the creek,
she fell in.
Yeah, she fell in. She tripped on that rock right there. Well, a lot of people thought I pushed her, but I did not.
I mean, it could have been Bella's fault. She was standing right there at her feet the whole time.
Yeah, it definitely was. Or Earl. Earl was trying to take fish. He might have it was definitely not me that ended up Sarah in the creek that time. But that little area is just, it's a very magical place. I mean, it really is.
I agree, but that's where I grew up. I mean, that's just where my childhood memories are at.
Sure. So speaking of childhood memories, this might be where we get him right here. So I know your dad passed away, 20 years ago, right in that?
Yeah, 2005.
So that there no YouTube then at that point, obviously. You weren't. So do you think your dad could have ever imagined, like, the farm you grew up on and how he ran it becoming so well known and what it is today, and much in the public eye?
No, because the first problem was I was the most shy, bashful kid you ever met. My dad was much older by the time I came along in life. He was 40 when I was born, and I was the only kid at home. I had a brother and sister, but they were already gone.
Yeah.
I was the only child, and we lived 12, 15 miles from town. I didn't just have a bunch of friends over all the time. I had friends come over, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't, I did my own thing. I went to the creek and I grabbed my BB gun and take off into the woods and be gone for 4, 5, 6 hours, you know. But socially, I mean, I was in school. I had friends in school, but I was not like the class clown, the kid that raised his hand to read or volunteered to go up and answer the questions on the board. Like, no. I was very shy.
Very shy, which is it is. But they do say a lot of content creators are introverts and like off camera. And I mean, obviously Daniel's not. I mean, and Daniel could probably attest. I'm definitely not. But a lot of people, they say that they are very introverted when they come off camera, and that's almost like their outlet to talk to other people is getting in front of a camera and doing something like that. Do you think he would like it? Like, if he was still alive today, what do you think his opinion would be of you putting everything on the farm out there?
I think there would be certain things that he would pick at me about, Yeah. But as far as just being able to take a piece of land and make a profit off of it, I think that would be something that any parent would be proud of. That you could take, because I did inherit the land from him, and we had it as a farm. We had 15 or 20 cows, and that was we sold a few cows, put a few in the freezer, but it really wasn't, it was more recreational hunting, fishing stuff, but it wasn't really like we weren't farming it for crops and things. And so to be able to take it and to turn a profit on it, not only just turn a profit on it, but to be able to use it to spread a message and just like, I want to be able to create a video that people turn on and their kids can turn it on and they don't have to worry about it, or they can turn it on and at the end of it go, I feel better about myself, or some sort, not necessarily inspirational, but in a sense, feel good. You said yesterday,
so Daniel and I are actually in town. We've got the Gulf Coast Homesteaders meetup going on right here in our area over in Milton, Florida. And you said, I think you hit the nail on your head, or on your head. That's bad thing about the podcast, you can't redo. So and you hit the nail on the head when you made the statement, America is craving wholesome content right now. And I truly believe that. We keep everything on our channel super clean and on the up and up. And I mean, and some people don't, and that's fine. That's their deal or whatever. But same thing. Like, I know Houston watches us some. I never want Daniel to have to walk through his living room and see his 10-year-old son sitting on the couch watching one of our videos and be like, hang on, I got to watch this and make sure nothing goes on here that I don't want Houston to see.
Right.
And same thing with your all's channel. Like, obviously, if I don't have young kids anymore, but if I did, it would never even cross my mind. If I see an Arms Family Homestead video, I'm never thinking about it if they should watch that or not.
Right. And that's just something that That's just my personal feeling. Like, I know there's a lot of channels out there like that I enjoy watching, like Whistling Diesel, for example.
Yeah.
Wild, crazy. Like, I feel like his goal is to trigger people that want to be triggered.
100%.
You know what I mean?
It's not hard to find them.
Right. It's not. But just in general across America, people are pulling away from network television in a, you know, in a huge way. I mean, how many people do you know that 5 years ago had cable and now they've cut the cord? They don't have cable
we don't
anymore.
I mean, we haven't had cable for 6 years.
Right. And I mean, there's streaming services and stuff, but people want that good, wholesome content. And like I said yesterday, people want to believe that America still has good people, good values, good morals, and they can't find that on TV.
You can't. It's crazy to me that, you know, you have, and I get drama sells. I mean, it's the same thing in our industry. Like, if you can create a little bit of drama on a video, I mean, we all do it. I mean, let's not kid anybody here. If we have something dramatic happen, we're going to pick up a camera and we're going to film it and we're going to put it out there. I mean, that's just that's the nature of it. But I think it's gotten so in the mainstream, like shows and media and stuff, it's become all it revolves around. We move from one crisis to another crisis, and we've done that for years now, where we're constantly in crisis mode.
Well, that, and if you watch mainstream television, there's like 5 or 6 things that you pretty much, there's a checklist. They have to be in that show or somebody's going to get mad.
Yep.
And I'm not picking on anybody for anything, but there's certain things that you turned on the TV 20 years ago you didn't see.
Yep. And it has to be in every show now.
And it has to be there now, or somebody's going to end up in a lawsuit.
Yeah, because you're discriminating against somebody because you didn't.
Yeah, and it has nothing to do with the point of the show.
Well, and it's funny. So, and we're going to get into this more as we move forward. Daniel is former law enforcement. If you guys aren't familiar with Daniel, he was a Oklahoma State trooper for 14 years prior to doing YouTube full time. Which I'm sure you got some. I talked to John Dalton about. He went from HVAC to being a full time YouTuber, and he got some crazy looks. I can only imagine. And let me preface this before we go into this. Daniel lives in a very small town in Oklahoma. Okay, so we're not talking like an Oklahoma City State Trooper or Tulsa. We're talking right outside. You're basically in between Oklahoma City and Dallas, Texas. So you're only 60 miles from Texas line, something like that. Yeah. So very, very small town in Oklahoma. So I can only imagine the looks you were getting when you're like, hey, I know I've been doing this 14 years. No, I'm only like 6-7 years from retirement, but I'm done. I'm going to go be a content creator.
Well, nobody in southern Oklahoma 7-8 years ago said, hey, I'm a YouTuber.
Yeah.
That was something that somebody in California or New York or something.
Right.
That was, so I started it just part-time, just as for fun on the side, just making a few videos here and there. And then it kind of become a side hustle. I was always big on side hustles. I used to mow lawns and do all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Sell vegetables and all that. So it became a side hustle, and then I was like, let's kind of make some money. But I kept it a secret locally.
Yeah.
For, I would say, probably a year. I didn't tell anybody I had a YouTube channel. A few people found out, and a few people would see things here and there.
Sure.
But it was not, it wasn't like, hey, your wife, for example, started a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
When she posted her first video, it was a big deal. And like, she blasted all over Facebook.
Yeah.
There's no way I would have done that.
Right.
Like,
Well,
the state trooper was not going to be like, hey guys, I posted a gardening video on YouTube.
And I get that. So yeah, I'm 100%. But I can, like, what about the people like that you worked with? Like when you did, so how, I guess the question is, and I don't know if I'm sure you've discussed this. How long once you got serious about making videos? 'Cause I'm not talking about like the first few, but when you and DJ sat down and decided, hey, we're going to make a business. How long was it from that point till you gave up being a trooper?
Well, I left the patrol in July of 2020.
Oh, so okay. I was thinking it was way longer. That's only been 2 years ago.
2 years.
Okay. Got
so
you.
We're like 8 years into this thing.
Okay. So you were a full 6 years before you.
Oh yeah.
And when you told them that you were leaving, what was the reaction from the department?
Well, by the time I was ready to leave, word had spread.
Yeah.
And people knew a lot. So for the first couple years, I just got made fun of.
Yeah.
Like guys that I worked with actively poked fun. So
Sure.
if we were all went to eat somewhere, they'd be like, well, what's Mr. Homesteader videoing today? Well, I videoed the planting tomatoes, and they're like, you're an idiot. I mean, literally. But
I don't want to say dollar amounts, but like it had to have been hard for you to not just whip out a check and be like, who's the idiot now?
So it took a long time to get to that point.
Yeah.
But there were a few guys that I worked with that made fun of me in the beginning and then started realizing there was one in particular that studied it and figured it out and was like, oh, you're actually making, here's what you're not exactly making, but you're making money doing this. And here's
how the process
here's the potential and here's what you can do. And so then other people would talk about me behind my back and he'd be like, hey, he might have made about $3,000 or $4,000 last month.
Yeah.
I don't know that for certain, but, and they're like, what?
Yeah. What? No way.
But I probably, I would say I probably made more money on the internet 3 years before, more money on the internet than my job for 3 years before I walked away.
Really?
Yeah. And
and just so you guys know, that's a pretty long cycle.
Yes.
That's not the normal case. I mean, most people, I would venture to guess if you did a poll, I would say a year if you start making more money than your main job. I think most people give it 6 months to a year. So 3 years is a long time.
But and I'm not going to speak for everybody in law enforcement, but in Oklahoma as a state trooper, I mean, nobody quits unless you just really do something wrong.
Yeah, you're there.
Like once you start, you're there until retirement. It's a career job that people work a long time to get to.
20 years? Is that
20 years is the minimum to get a full retirement. But most guys stick around 25 plus years.
25 plus, yeah.
So nobody walks away at 14 because you're vested. You're 6 years away from which I am vested at 14. I'll still get a check after my 20-year mark, just much less than what I would have if I was 20.
Yeah.
But for about 3 years, I could have left and been just fine. I was scared to leave that retirement, the safety, the security of what I thought was the safety of my retirement plan.
Yeah.
And what I couldn't see, and I'm not going to say I was brainwashed or anything, I just couldn't see past that, hey, this is secure. But it's not. It's not secure. No. Look at how many people over the last decade have lost everything.
Yep.
You know.
It's funny because
people always said, well, the internet can go away tomorrow. YouTube can go away tomorrow.
Any job can go away tomorrow.
Any job can go away tomorrow. And the thing about law enforcement when I left in 2020 is it could go away tomorrow because of some stupid incident out here on the side of the road that somebody filmed and only caught part of it.
Right.
And you end up in court and the department goes, we're probably not wrong.
Yeah, that's what I was
But we're not going to back you because of the publicity.
That's it. You don't even have to be wrong to be in a lot of, not necessarily trouble, but it'd be like, it's more trouble than it's worth for them. It's easier for them to just let you go and say, hey, I let him go. Everything's all good. Yeah. When in all reality, had they stuck around and stuck up for you, you could have proven that you didn't do anything wrong.
Or you get a district attorney that doesn't like the department.
Yeah.
And they're going to use you to make an example so that they can keep their job.
Yeah,
next go around.
But I mean, going back to what you said, and that's exactly what I was getting ready to say. We see this all the time. Sarah and I see it. I know you guys probably see it. You need to get a real job. The internet's not a real job. Well, I break this down into two things. One, the day you can classify to me what a real job is the day I'll get one. Because to me, if I'm making money, that's a real job. Mm-hmm. The second thing is I manage banks for, I went into the banking industry at 18 years old, and I was in the bank until I was close to 30, I think. And it was literally walking on eggshells to keep my job every day, because most business places, white collar jobs in this country, it is the most, what have you done for me lately? Mm-hmm.
And somebody else is always looking for your spot.
That's right. And not only that, but there's no such thing as loyalty in white collar. It's like the next guy above you, the second something goes wrong, he's looking for somebody, he or she is looking for somebody underneath him to take the fall. Mm-hmm. That is, and I mean, I left banking on my own.
It rolls downhill.
It does. 100% it does. If you take the headphones off, you won't be able to hear like the
crickets
or that's what all that stuff comes in the headphones. You have to be wearing those to know what all that's going on. But yeah, so it would definitely be, tedious in any job. So is the internet volatile? Sure. 100% it is. But I think if you look at it, I will tell you this. You guys all know we work in the wedding industry. Had it not been for the internet in 2020, I probably would have went bankrupt, because
nobody was having public weddings.
Weddings went away real quick when COVID hit.
A lot of things.
Yeah. So, I mean, literally, and you can attest to this. I know you guys sustained amazing growth in 2020. It was the most unaffected job of anything in 2020. If nothing else, it probably grew more.
Okay, that's what I was going to say. My YouTube channel grew more in spring and summer of 2020 than it ever has. But
you were prime.
I was in a spot where the world was screeching to a halt. People were scared. They were worried about food. They were worried about what they were going to do. Yep. And they were bored. I just so happened to have about 200 or 300 gardening videos on the internet.
And that's what everybody wanted to do in 2020.
Exploded because they were home. They didn't have anything to do, and they were concerned about food, so grow a garden. Yep. And when you have 200 videos on how to grow food,
was 2020 your... And we're not going to talk dollars, but like as far as like what we consider, or I know what I consider, and you may look at this differently. So anything that I get off of an old video, I consider that passive income. Mm-hmm. It's not a video I'm having to shoot this week. So if I'm once the month has passed and I've made money in October for the videos I post, if it's a video that's making money that I post in September, that moves into my passive income category. Mm-hmm. Was that your biggest year for passive income on old videos?
On the garden videos, yeah, I mean, yeah, a bunch of those took off. A bunch of those did really well.
Sure.
But my views were up overall. In general, my views spiked, even on my newer content, because people were stuck at home.
Yeah.
And kids were at home. So summertime is always my biggest month. Like July every year is my biggest month, no matter what.
Gotcha.
But that's when kids are at home, vacations are over, they've all kind of settled into their summer routine, and that's when they're on YouTube.
Yeah.
So I don't know for sure. I had a bunch of old garden videos that did really, really well, but there's always a cycle. My channel with a farm and gardening and livestock, things are seasonal.
Sure.
Just like with fishing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And every year some of those garden videos pop up, and every year at a certain time our hunting videos, like an old hunting video, will pop up. And so it's every year it kind of does the same thing and snowballs.
Yeah.
So I would say 2020 was definitely a turning point for me. It took me well over a year to make that decision to leave. But in 2020, with everything going on in the world and the way law enforcement looked, the way the world was, there was no doubt. I mean, I was like, I'm leaving. I've been able to be in a position where the internet would support myself for 3 years. Yeah. Let's just do it. It was the best decision I ever made. But I think part of that was just learning that working for yourself is a different world.
It is.
And now after working for myself, whether it's the internet or my own construction company,
sure,
it would be incredibly difficult for me to go back to a career where if my kid had a baseball game, that I have to send in an email to another person and say, sir, may I please take off so I can go watch my son play baseball today?
Yep.
And it'd be hard to go back to that because they had the responsibility to look at the schedule and go, no, you can't, or yes, you can. And I don't have to ask that question anymore. And that's the greatest thing in the world.
We've had that on, just Daniel and I talk a lot, through text and phone calls, and we've had that conversation before. Once you do this, the drive to continue to be successful at it is insane. And it's because of exactly what you just said. It's tough to even wrap Sarah and I have owned our own business for the better part of 5 years now. So, Sarah worked the last public job we had when she was working for the law office, but we've both been working for ourselves for well over 4 years. Mm-hmm. It would be difficult for me to ever go back to doing the normal 9 to 5.
So for me, with my career, well, now with YouTube and all the internet possibilities, income is great, don't get me wrong, but it was hard for me motivation-wise in a job where I was a salary paid employee. I knew what I was going to make that year, whether I made the minimum standard or I went way overboard and did 10 times more work, my pay wasn't going to change.
It was the exact same.
And I knew what I was going to make the next year and the next year, unless, we got a pay raise. But my work, I was talking about this yesterday. I couldn't quantify my work at the end of the day.
Yeah.
No matter how hard you worked, your paycheck was still the same as long as you were doing your job. Where with this stuff and working for yourself, whether it's, being a content creator or any kind of your photography business, your income is based off of what you put into it.
Yep.
And once you taste that and get that built into your brain, it's it just changes the way you see the world.
It definitely changes you from a professional standpoint. And I encourage people all the time to do that. And I'm sure your kids are the same way. Both my kids, Chase just turned 18, Landon's 12. And there's not much that makes me prouder when I ask them, like I'll ask Chase, what are your plans? What do you want to do? And he's like, I'm going to start my own video game company. That's literally like the proudest thing I can hear him say. Not, I want to go work for so-and-so, or I want to design this for I want to start my own video game company. Like that. Now, will he have to work for somebody else to get to that point? Sure, probably he will. But for that to be his end goal, and him to see that Sarah and I have had some success being business owners, and him to recognize that that is 100% a possibility within reach, there's not much greater feeling than that to pass on to your kids when you hear them say that, in my opinion, obviously. So,
no, I totally agree. That would be ideal.
we got to get some good questions here. I had a couple I wanted to ask you. I've asked Daniel a lot of stuff off camera, like just through our conversation. But there's a few things I've never asked him. I've always wanted to, and I guess maybe I knew we were going to be doing this podcast someday. My number one question is: did you ever pull somebody over and they recognize you?
Yes.
How was that interaction?
It was awkward.
Was it?
Yeah. It didn't happen a lot, but
sure.
But it happened, I would say 10 or 12 times. It was very strange. Because you're still in a professional capacity, you're still there to do a job, but they see you as a totally different person.
Yeah.
Than what the person standing at that window when they broke the law.
Right.
But yeah, it happened. It got to where it was happening too much there the last few months.
I mean, if I didn't know you, I'd be tempted to go like start speeding through the county you were in just to get pulled over. Like,
I had lots of those comments that were like, really? People would say that in the comments and be like, I'm going to have speed through your area just like meet you. I'm like,
don't do that.
Sounds like a terrible idea.
I will give you a ticket. That's not a good idea. We were at the conference yesterday. There was several law enforcement or former law enforcement, and I made the joke, and I'm sure you heard this all the time. The second somebody finds out you're a cop, they feel obligated to ask you every legal question they ever had. What's the fastest I can go without how many times have you been asked throughout your life, how fast can I really go before you'll give me a ticket? Yeah.
And everybody, they want some sort of legal advice. They're like, hey, so my cousin, I'm like, no, you.
First off. No, don't. So my friend, it's me. I'm the friend.
Yeah. I couldn't tell you how many times I've been asked it, but the one that always got me, like during bad weather, which you don't experience that down here, really, I guess. But
we have rain sometimes.
Inclement, cold, snowy weather. 4 or 5 of us, we would kind of meet at a gas station near the interstate because that's where all the calls were always at. So we'd take a break. Never fails. Every time someone would walk in, and we're in South Central Oklahoma. They're like, hey, can you tell me what the roads are like up near Kansas?
Yes, I can. Hang on. Let me call my buddy up in Kansas.
Yeah. Or they would say, you could look out there and it's snowing. There's snow plows. Oklahoma has very few snow plows. The roads get snowed. They just get snowed over.
Yeah.
The interstates get cleared off, but they can put out all these broadcasts on the news like, hey, don't travel today. The roads are terrible. We'd be sitting in there, taking a break. Somebody come in, hey, I got to make it up to Kansas. You think the roads are all right? No, you should probably stop and not go. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and try to make it.
I'm going to go ahead and do it anyways.
Well, why did you come in and ask?
I just, at this point, I know why they come in and ask, because then if it doesn't matter what you said. That's irrelevant. What all they heard was, yeah, you can go. And then that way, if something happens to them, like,
I talked to a trooper.
I talked to a trooper down in Oklahoma, and he said I'd be fine to come up here. Yeah. So he goes right back to that old just needing the reassurance that's not even really there. Next question. Who's your favorite animal on the farm? And we're going to leave it on a cliffhanger. I know that's not probably what you guys wanted to hear, but I had a feeling when Daniel and I got together to sit down for one of these podcasts that it was probably going to end up being longer than an hour, and that's what ended up happening. So we're going to have to break this one up into 2 episodes. Now, you don't have to wait very long because the next episode is going to drop tomorrow at 4 Central. So if you're watching this video on the day it came out, you don't have to wait very long. The next episode will be out tomorrow, part 2. If you're watching this video the next day, you don't got to worry. It's already there. There is a part 1, which is what you guys just got finished watching. There's also a part 2 up on the channel, so make sure you guys check that out. We'll see y'all tomorrow with the rest of the story.